Boundaries. Now, this is a popular buzzword that we hear on the internet. Everywhere you go, people speak about boundaries. But the question is, do we know how to apply them practically in our lives? So, are they even significant? Are they relevant? Do I need to learn about boundaries? Of course, the answer is a resounding yes. Boundaries are there to protect you from overextending yourself, to protect you from the unrealistic expectations of other people. But most importantly, something that you don't often hear about when boundaries are spoken about, I'm sure, is that boundaries are actually meant to protect us from ourselves. Now, I'm going to use the dictionary definition of boundary, Oxford Dictionary, to delineate the different aspects of what boundaries are all about. Alright, so let's hear what the Oxford Dictionary has to say about what a boundary is. So it says, a boundary is a line which marks the limits of an area, a dividing line. Let me repeat that. A line which marks the limits of an area, a dividing line. So I'm well aware that you guys are probably well acquainted with the different uses that boundaries are used for. For instance, when you use boundaries to protect yourself from people demanding too much from you. Let's say you're at work and you know that, your responsibility was to do specific tasks, and then suddenly your superior just comes and piles a precarious load of work on your lap and just expects you to do that, without your consent, without your approval, without even discussing this prior with you. So it's easy to think of boundaries in that sense when we think of how we can protect ourselves from other people or them misusing us or misusing what belongs to us. So I'm not going to delve too much on that. However, I'm going to rather focus on the less spoken about aspects of boundaries, and that is how you are supposed to apply boundaries to yourself to protect yourself from holding you back, right? So boundaries are meant to help you know what's available to you, because it's a line, it's a dividing line that marks the limit of an area. So your area is your territory. Your area is what you're good at, what you are gifted at doing, what you have. What do you have? What do you have right now? That is your area. What belongs to you? So if we are not aware of what our territory is holding, then we're not able to harness the resources that are within that territory. Instead, you just settle for anything every single day instead of actually making the most of all that you have, either if it's from your creator or from other people or just in life in general, what you have at your disposal. It's very important that we all become aware of what our territory is. Like, what do you have and how often are you actually making the most of that? So oftentimes we violate those boundaries. We violate our own boundaries by choosing to just let those resources lay dormant without using them. For instance, you wake up today and we've got Wi-Fi 24/7, yeah? And you basically you're not going to work and you choose to spend the day napping even 3/4 of the time. So that's okay if you are on a break and you really want to have some deep rest. But if this becomes your everyday routine, whereby if you're not working and you're home and the only thing that you do most of the time is just nap most of the time, then it's like, wait, what are you doing with your life? There's so much that you could have accomplished last week. You could have used the internet that you have to learn so many things. There's audiobooks. Oh my goodness, I love audiobooks, by the way. Whew. Anyway, but you get the point, right? So the point is there's so many resources that we have at our disposal, but we don't draw the line with ourselves to say, look, I'm not going to waste my time. I'm not going to waste these resources. I'm not going to waste my talent. I'm not going to waste all the years that I went to school for and allow myself to live this life that I'm living. So a boundary is supposed to remind you of who you are and what belongs to you. What are you destined for? What do you deserve? And if you see that I'm not living the life that reflects the amount of hard work that I exerted in my past, then that's something that you have to question and say, wait, but what do I need to do? What can I start doing differently so that I can actually start manifesting the life that I'm meant to live at this time? So yes, for those people, I know there's a lot of you guys that have studied so much, worked so hard, but when you look at your life, you're like, wait, what's happening here? So it's all about boundaries. Are you okay with allowing yourself to live a mediocre life, or are you actually someone that realizes that no, there's more? Do you demand more for yourself every single day? And that is the most important boundary. So it's you being true to yourself. So let's say you are born with a specific talent. I really admire comedians. My goodness, I just think it's such an incredible gift being able to bring laughter to people. So let's say you do know that, I am talented with this gift of just being able to bring joy to people, and you want to do, comedy like professionally, but all that you ever do is just limit yourself to your own, maybe like small skits that you not really like making to be a professional or career part of what you're doing. So you just do it for fun. Basically, you do it for just but you're not actually taking your talent seriously by investing so much energy and resources into building yourself up so that you can actually become an established comedian who can share your gift with not just a fraction of a few people but the rest of the world. So that's actually you violating your boundary. By you choosing to play small, it's a violation of personal boundary. So think about every and any aspect of your life that you feel like I haven't been true to myself, right? What are those areas of your life that you feel like I play small? For instance, your health. Maybe you just let yourself go and all you do is just eat crappy food and it's just like haywire. So that's already an area that you can think of that way. I've crossed the line with myself here. I'm supposed to be eating healthy. I'm supposed to be exercising, but when last did I do that? So now I'm just living a sedentary life and I'm not actually protecting my body. I'm not respecting my body, and as a result, I've just let myself go. So it's you not being true to your values and true to what's meaningful and what's helpful to you. So that's one way to look at boundaries. And I think that's the most important way, because if you learn to respect your boundaries, if you learn to make the most of every resource that you have at your disposal, you're going to be so happy and build a very dignified life for yourself that you won't necessarily attract a lot of toxicity from others as well. So yes, that is what I have to say with relation to boundaries and learning how to tap into what you have. Make the most of every element that you have in your life. What are the resources that you're not using? Sometimes it's even like experiences that you go through. So with the experiences that we go through, well, I'm a firm believer that good or bad, everything is meant for your good. So if you violate your boundaries, you're probably someone that doesn't actually allow yourself to learn. So every time your life is a repetition of the same mistakes, same old weaknesses, and you're not actually allowing yourself to grow from the experiences that you've had. So having good boundaries is actually learning to draw that line to say, wait, I went through all of this. What is the lesson? I'm going to take the lesson and I've implemented it in my life and use it to my own benefit. So that's important and extremely helpful in helping you make the most of your life and live with so much productivity. Now let's speak about the next element of boundary. All right, so another crucial aspect of boundaries is understanding that these are values, these are principles, these are standards that you need to communicate to others. You need to communicate them and maintain them so that people can know the parameters in which they're supposed to interact with you. So with every relationship, nobody is going to just, miraculously know that, okay, this is what you want, this is what bothers you, this is what triggers you, this is what's unacceptable to you. Relationships are all about learning what the other person is, what ticks them off, what makes them happy, what's intolerable to them. So you have to be someone that's actually okay with communicating those standards. I think the best time to actually communicate standards and values is when you start building relationships with people. Like the first few months, you have to make it known before something happens that this is who I am. This is what I like. For instance, if you're sharing a room with someone, then obviously that's a very complex environment to live in. Both you might be very different from the person that you're living with. So you can't wait for something wrong to happen before you start to say, oh, you annoyed me when you did this. In the moment you guys move in together, you have to really communicate that, okay, this is the kind of person I am. It really upsets me when this happens. It really makes me happy when this happens. What are your values? I'd like to know what they are so that we can both respect each other's values and see where we can meet each other halfway where need be. So it's extremely important that those conversations are conducted at the initial stage of every relationship. Trust me, it'll save you a world of a series of disastrous situations just erupting from nowhere because someone violated a need or a value that you have. So it's important that boundaries are communicated. But what are the areas that we're supposed to exert those boundaries? Your time, you have to have a clear boundary of how you use your time, and then you have to also communicate clear boundaries of how others are supposed to use your time. Basically, what others are supposed to expect from you when it comes to your time. If someone is calling you in the middle of the night and asking you to do some assignment and you didn't sign up for that, that's something that you don't have to just be a yes man to and be like, oh, okay. No, that's unacceptable. You have to either ignore the person and then communicate them at a reasonable hour, communicate with them at a reasonable hour and say, hey, look, I decided to respond to you now because it's a reasonable time to communicate. I didn't think that was an appropriate time to contact me, and I think maybe if you really need help sometimes, maybe communicate with me during the times when I can actually avail myself. During that time, I'm attending to my family, I need some rest, so I would really appreciate it if you can also respect that. Something like that. So have clear boundaries that are defined in terms of your time, your energy, your personal space, your finances. All of those things have to be communicated, and that allows your relationships to have a foundation that is strong, whereby we don't assume what this other person wants, but you're actually clear and knowledgeable of what's expected of you, and you allow the other person to also be motivated to do the same and communicate with you what they expect of you. So that is it on boundaries. Please make sure that you rethink about how you've been harnessing the boundaries in your life. Do you feel like you've been authentic in your life? Are you true to yourself? Do you make the most of every resource and talent that you have, or are you playing small and choosing to be mediocre? How can you start to be true to yourself going forward? How can you start to protect your boundaries with other people, but most importantly, protect your boundaries with yourself? Stop wasting your territory. Your boundary is your area. Make the most of it and watch how fulfilling life will start to be thereafter. So thank you so much for watching. I'll see you in the next video.